You ever see such jerky-looking creatures? On one head yet.
Typical Earthmen. Not really, though. The one in the middle, the one who just suffered the physical damage, he may be the very one we've been looking for.
How do you mean?
Silence. I'm receiving his waves. Name is Dingle. Abject coward. Does not even possess what Earth creatures call minimum muscles. Decidedly a sub-physical type. I think we have found our subject.
Hello, and welcome to the Twilight Pwn, the internet's third-ish most popular podcast. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host, Fred.
Hello.
How you doing this week, Fred?
I'm doing good. Do you think you and I possess what Earth creatures refer to as minimum muscles?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's my New Year's resolution.
I've been doing minimum push-ups, so maybe I'll get there someday. But yeah, let's address the...
Yeah, we got a very special holiday gift. Yes. So sometimes we get asked, we have lovingly dubbed ourselves the internet's third most popular Twilight Zone podcast, which is largely based around in iTunes. If you search for Twilight Zone podcast, we always came up, or for a long time came up third behind, obviously, Tom Elliott's great show, the Twilight Zone podcast, and this other program called the Twilight Zone Fan Club or something. Yeah, a short-lived thing that had the virtue of getting in on the ground floor. So, yeah. But it turns out Fred did a search, and I confirmed we seem to be in the pole position at the moment, so it's scary to be on top. It's just waiting to get knocked off.
I know. Heavy hangs the crown.
Exactly.
And I'm sure this is exactly the kind of thing our new listeners from the marathon are dying to hear about. A very step-by-step breakdown of how we got to the top-rated.
Yeah, new listeners, this is how every episode starts.
Yes,
we evaluate where we stand in the iTunes search engine.
Our listeners have come to accept
the first
it.
15 minutes. It's our favorite bit.
All right. Let's get to the Twilight Zone. What are we talking about this week?
Well, this week, and I also should mention this, for new and old listeners, we have had our holiday contest ongoing throughout this. With the holidays, we got a little behind. We've got all our submissions in. We need a little more time to review them, so we'll announce our winners next week's episode.
Yeah. But anyway, for now, we're talking about an episode of the Twilight Zone, which is
Mr. Dingle the Strong, a second season episode, the 55th of the production run. It aired originally on March 3rd, 1961.
Uniquely American institution known as the Neighborhood Bar. Reading left to right are Mr. Anthony O'Toole, proprietor, who waters his drinks like geraniums, but who stands foursquare for peace and quiet and for booths for ladies. This is Mr. Joseph J. Callahan, an unregistered bookie, whose entire life is any sporting event with two sides and a... His idea of a meeting at the summit is any dialogue between a catcher and a pitcher with more than one man on base. And this animated citizen is every anonymous bettor who ever dropped rent money in a horse race, a prize fight, or a floating crap game, and who took out his frustrations and his insolvency on any vulnerable fellow barstool companion within arms and fist reach. And this is Mr. Luther Dingle, a vacuum cleaner salesman whose volume of business is roughly that of a valet at a hobo convention. He's a consummate failure in almost everything, but is a good listener and has a prominent jaw. And these two unseen gentlemen are visitors from outer space. They are about to alter the destiny of Luther Dingle by leaving him a legacy, the kind you can't hardly find no more. In just a moment, a sad-faced perennial punching bag who missed even the caboose of life's gravy train will take a short constitutional into that most unpredictable region that we refer to as the Twilight Zone.
Bios and trivia. Show's over, folks. It was great. I don't know. A lot to unpack there. It's like some weird, Damon Runyon nightmare. It's really easy to get lost in all of that.
I mean, I felt like he was definitely having a lot of fun.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's some great Serling-isms peppered throughout that one. He didn't just mail that one in.
Yeah, for sure. I also love how there's a very subtle music cue when he says, "And this is Mr. Luther Dingle." Just that name alone.
Just a little tingle and dingle.
Yeah, exactly. It fills me with glee. Anyway, we like to do our own Serling-style intro. Mine is not quite as long as Serling's, but it is long, so maybe I'll go first to get it out of the way.
Sure.
Uniquely American institution known as Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill. Reading from left to right. We start with Mr. Anthony O'Toole, proprietor, who waters his drinks like a tipsy gardener who but stands true and tall for ladies' nights, thirsty Thursdays, and hours that are about as happy as a clown in a fun store. Next is Mr. Joseph Callahan, an unregistered bookie whose idea of literature is a racing form and whose knowledge of mathematics is limited to numbers with dollar signs firmly attached. Finally, we have this pugnacious gentleman. He's a stand-in for every anonymous bettor who staked his children's milk money on a crap game that's about as regular as a $4 watch purchased from a shop with as many pawns in the title as a chess convention hosted in a hotel with a hobo convention. I'm lost. I mean, it happens. I flew too close to the sun. Icarus. I can admit it. Let's just enjoy the show. The Twilight Zone. Dingle. The Twilight Zone. That's a little bit of acting to get the new year going, you know. Really been working with my teacher on getting into the role.
Yeah, no, I think a few more classes and you're really gonna see some results in your auditions.
Yeah, sure am. All right, what do you got?
And listeners, forgive me, I have a bit of a cold, so I'll do my best. Tonight I'm not here to tell you a tale of terrifying telekinetic tots or saintly store Santas. Tonight, and tonight only, I want to let you in on a sensational secret of physical fitness that can transform the tiniest toad man like Mr. Luther Dingle, late of the lower links of the food chain, into a mega macho man like one Rodman E. Serling. Mr. Dingle, who struggles to stay afloat in the shallow end of the gene pool, will blast his quads, explode his pecs, and quadruple his bench with this mind-altering new fitness regimen. Just 30 seconds on our specially designed, extra smarmy, two-headed elliptical machine, and Mr. Dingle will have the beach bod that all the women want and all the men envy. This revolution in fitness is available for one night only. Operators are standing by in the Twilight Zone.
Nice. I'm kind of shocked that you didn't go for like a weird pun on Mr. Dingle the Strong. I kind of toyed with like a single hit of the bong. Couldn't make it stick.
There was definitely a period in front of the whiteboard where I was like, can I do the whole thing with dingle-based rhymes? Yeah. And I realized there's only like about 4.
Yes.
I really was like trying to nail Dingle and Pringles in a way that was fun, and I couldn't land it.
About like 2 hours ago, I had the exact same experience. I was like, okay, mingle, that's not too useful, but I can work with
mingle
that.
Is gonna, yeah.
Single,
Jingle,
that's good.
Christmas, okay. Yeah. I really want that Pringle. It's like, he's as strong as a Pringle. Pringles break. I don't know.
Yeah. There's just this like weird Goodwill Hunting math board up in your bedroom. Anyway, we're about to spoil the plot of the episode, so if that's an issue, go ahead and check it out right now. You can stream it on Hulu, you can stream it on Netflix, you can buy the DVDs, or you can travel back in time and watch the Twilight Zone marathon, which just ended. But we are going to spoil it, so you have been warned. It opens, as Serling has let us know, in a uniquely American institution, a neighborhood bar. And basically, Serling...
And yet it's not, you know? I mean, isn't, like, when I think of who owns the rights to the bar, I kind of think of England and the pub, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I kind of think, like, well, they're bookies in England. I mean, gambling is legal there.
Oh, gambling, I don't know. I felt like gambling seemed, like, more prevalent. Where there's, like, check cashing places in America. There's, like, off-track betting sites.
Yeah, no, it's weird, yeah. Especially because, you know, they're all, like, it's legal, so they're all, like, branded and marketed like, you know, Pepsi here. There's actually a company in England called Betfred. We're already very far afield.
Maybe we could get a new sponsor. It's like, forget DraftKings, we'll get Betfred.
Yeah, exactly. If you're listening, Betfred, twilightpwn@gmail.com. But anyway, it's the main action that's taking place is an argument between a bookie and his client who's placed a bet on a game that happened last night. And the client lost the bet, but they're arguing because apparently there was a bum call. Did you notice that one of the teams that was playing was the
Pittsburgh Pirates?
There you go.
Indeed, I did.
And they won, so clearly it's a fantasy-based episode. You want a couple more takes of that?
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, as they argue, the bartender gets involved. It's kind of like Rod Serling's Ed DeBevics. It's like there's a lot of like mutual poning of everybody in the bar. And meanwhile, off in a corner, this mild-mannered character, Luther Dingle. The name is going to be hard to stick to, but yeah, Luther Dingle.
Question.
Yeah.
Is Luther too tough a surname for Dingle?
That was my issue as well. Maybe because of the show now, I associate it with a tough dude.
I just see Idris Elba, and I'm like, he's not a Dingle, you know?
Well, it was either Burgess Meredith or Idris Elba for this role. Burgess edged out the competition.
They were vying for roles all throughout the 60s.
Yeah. Did you notice how they're talking about all this sports stuff, the bookie and the client, and they reference this thing called the long count fight? Did you hear about this?
I didn't notice that. They were throwing so much 60s sports trivia at me. I was like dropping notes. I was like, maybe I should Google this. Maybe I should Google that. I didn't get it all. What's the long count fight?
This was the one. This was number 1 of 20. So I Googled it and then let it go. But according to Wikipedia, it's a boxing rematch between world heavyweight champion Gene Tunney and former champion Jack Dempsey. And apparently, there was a big controversy about it because the referee was very slow to count to 10, thereby giving Tunney extra time to get up and actually win the fight. So it's this big thing. It's kind of a weird thing about boxing that they let the referee just kind of count, you know? Like
it's interesting, you know. It's as if boxing isn't, you know, totally legitimate.
I don't know about that, John. But yeah,
I mean, it is honestly that is kind of funny. It's like you get it in professional wrestling. It's like you can distract the referee and he's arguing with the manager. Like, how does that play in a supposed real sport? How does that go?
Dingle has a bit of a stutter. He's kind of like shy and meek, and he gets drawn into this fight about the baseball game.
Did you watch the game on television last night? You talk about bum calls. Duke Snyder was up, and it was in the 9th inning. 2 men were out. Howard and Moon were on first and second. And this umpire, with no pupils in his eyes, calls a foul ball and out. Did you see it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did watch the game on television. Exceptional defensive play, exceptional. Abner Doubleday would have been proud.
Never mind about having a double day. I'm going to leave it up to you. Was it a foul ball or was it an out?
Well, it appears to me that the ball fell into fair territory, and therefore, when striking the ground and hitting the batter, the rules very definitely state that the batter was out.
Yes, the man, you got an answer.
Now, question. Yeah. Did you go down the rabbit hole of who Abner Doubleday is?
No? Did you?
I meant to, and I forgot to, and then while the clip was playing, I went ahead and did it.
Okay.
So he was supposedly the inventor of baseball, but by this point, that's been kind of understood to probably be more of a myth than reality. But
so he's a guy who didn't invent baseball.
Well, he was also a U.S. officer and a Union general in the Civil War.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Way to make me feel bad. Well, actually, he was a veteran, Fred.
Yeah, you know, I support the troops. I don't know, Fred. Whatever.
Okay. Let's move on.
The bartender kind of gives him a little bit of advice here.
Dingle, for once, why can't you be neutral?
Did that strike you as odd just because it felt like in an episode that would be kind of like the theme?
Yeah.
You know, like that's the character. It feels like you've got another character announcing our protagonist's flaw.
Yeah.
And so whatever's going to happen is going to address that. Like Dingle's problem is that he's too much of a guy who takes a stand. Yeah. But then it like is not in any way related to what's happening. Like
I don't know. Rarely is like the moral of a great episode. Be more neutral.
It's just an odd position.
I think it's mainly that like he's too weak to back up his opinion, so he should just keep his mouth shut. Is the basic. I think that's where they're going with that. But I agree, it is a little bit confusing to be like, be more like Switzerland, Dingle. Anyway, the scene kind of starts puttering out. They're just arguing, and you know, Dingle's getting shoved around, and so Rod chucks an alien into it. Some crazy Martians just kind of appear out of nowhere, and Serling announces that they're invisible, so the characters, you know, can't see them. Now, how would you describe this crazy Martian thing?
Gosh. I don't know. It's like, say someone came in and they were like, we need an alien for this episode, and we really want to go dumb. We're going to go real dumb on this one. I made the note. I forgot the aliens came on so early. I wasn't ready. I knew they were coming. I've seen this episode enough times. Yeah. But if I'd had a drink, I would have spit take all over again. I just wasn't prepared.
Yeah, it's like two dudes. It's like, an alien with two heads. And they're in this big kind of robot-esque body, but they also...
It's very like Monty Python-esque. Like there's no effort to make it look like a two-headed person. It's just like an enormous body. They've got ridiculous little antennae out of their heads. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice.
Yeah. Anyway, these aliens are watching the proceedings, Dingle getting shoved around about this bet. And they start talking to each other and sort of assessing Dingle. We already heard this clip at the beginning, but apparently he does not possess minimum muscles, and he's kind of a pussy. And so they're gonna do some kind of experiment on him. I mean, this is. The premise is quite thin.
Yeah, it's like Alien Eye for the weak guy, I guess. It's like this reality show they're pitching. Yeah. I don't know.
It's pitched as research, but it doesn't seem like,
It definitely, there seems to be much more of an air of effing with them than, deep scientific research happening.
It's much more punked than it is like the University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, if the University of Manchester gave Ashton Kutcher a grant, this might be what he would do with it.
Anyway, they're going to make him 300 times stronger than he normally is as part of this quote-unquote. Yeah, okay. Calculation. Right. Well, you play the clip to mock me. Dingle has 300 times the strength of a normal human now, and it overcomes him, and the first demonstration of it is that he's picking up his vacuum cleaner sample to leave. He's a vacuum cleaner salesman, and it's remarkably light. I feel like if you were 300 times stronger, it wouldn't just be like a little lighter. It would just feel like nothing.
It would probably just fly through the ceiling.
Or something, yeah. But anyway, so he picks that up, and then he walks over to the door, and he's about to leave, and he accidentally rips the door off the handle. So
whoa, Fred, you skipped. He covers. He thinks it's so light, but he covers this with what many people would describe as a pitch for the angel.
It's one of the lightest machines on the market. Yes, sir, I tell you, it's a handy-dandy, Jim Cracker, A1 piece of merchandise. Guaranteed to lighten the load and lengthen the life of that wonderful partner in the American home, the housewife.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, he kind of falls off a bit there, but yeah.
Yeah, it kind of makes a weird mix of so he's slightly stronger. Did that help did it just give him the confidence by having the bod? Or I don't know. Yeah. We haven't seen him try and sell beforehand, so maybe that's where he was anyway. I don't know.
Is stuttering just a function of how buff your throat nodes are? What the hell?
Well, it was an interesting thing. I kind of thought that he had a stutter, and the stutter remained even though he got really strong, which of course it would. It's just somehow it feels like they're giving him confidence and solving his problems, and yet that kind of issue remains. Did that strike you as a little weird?
I think that they're just trying to. This whole episode is just about small little comedic moments, and I think they kind of felt like, if they can get a yuck out of this guy's disability, let's just keep going with it, pretty much.
Right. So, got it.
So let's move along. Okay. So, with his newfound powers, Dingle's going to get back to selling vacuum cleaners, and he's on a suburban street getting hassled by some kid who throws a football at him. And, of course, we get the beat of Dingle tossing the ball back, but it flies really far and through many comedic tableaus.
It converts vaguely to a flying saucer for a couple of the shots.
Yeah, the effect is a little awkward. So then, I mean, the whole episode is basically just a succession of, Dingle is strong bits. So then, next a cab shows up, and he's opening the door, but he rips the door off the handle and then accidentally tips the cab up on its side. It's all very confusing to poor Dingle, and then he's in a park, kind of resting and contemplating what has come
Dinglehood.
over him. Right, exactly. A woman with a baby comes and sits down next to him, and Dingle tries to assuage her fears by saying that he's not a masher. Did you catch that?
Oh, I did. I had the clip, and then I had too many clips, so I dumped it. But But yes, are you familiar with this term?
No, I mean, I assume it's like a player or something.
It's not unlike a Jersey Shore smushing, I would imagine. It's kind of similar.
I'm not a smusher, my dear lady. And but he is explaining that something has sort of come over him, and he's confused about it all.
Yeah,
and
he decides he's not going to use his words. Yes. To his credit, he decides to show, not tell.
Exactly. When he just kind of runs behind the bench and lifts up the bench, and the woman's on it, and it's a fun special effect. And he's not a masher. And
I will say, the effect wasn't terrible.
No, it was good. I thought it was nice.
I couldn't see the wires this time, so that's there. There's that.
A+ guys.
Yeah.
And thankfully, a reporter with like an oversized camera is on hand to capture all of this. I just love, what was the reporter doing in this public garden?
It happens on slow news days,
yes. The headline is...
Have I told the story of how I ended up in the paper once when I was like a 5-year-old?
No, what was it?
It was at recess, and I had found a big tangled up wad of jump ropes. Instead of taking the time to untangle them, I just grabbed one end and started swinging the huge, wad of jump ropes around in a circle as fast as I could. I have no idea why. There was a journalist on hand. They took a picture of it. Front page, lifestyle section.
Sure,
Kid
journalist
plays with jump rope.
You know what's funny is that I actually have a very similar story, which was when I was a similar age, we went to a farmer's market, which was kind of a new thing at the time. And a random photographer just handed me a giant Brussels sprout thing and took my picture.
Oh man, that's like William Randolph Hearst stuff.
Yellow
right there.
journalism.
He's getting involved in this. He's making the story happen.
This story was kind of the basis for The Wire. Or that season of The
you
Wire.
give me the Brussels sprouts, I'll give you a war.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that was the front page of the lifestyle section with the headline, "Farmers markets are growing on city folks." It won a Pulitzer Prize.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so maybe the reporter was just looking for an impressionable 5-year-old.
Exactly.
To throw a Brussels sprout at. So he takes a picture of Dingle lifting up a statue, which is another good effect. I think they did a good job on that.
Right effect. And right before that, I believe, is when Dingle just picks up a rock and tears it in half, which made me laugh. I mean, it's an absurd display of strength.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is when I made the note, what if this episode is actually funny? I'm not...
What was your conclusion on that thought?
This is what I'm wrestling with today. I'm very curious to hear how we shake out with these ratings, because I can't decide, is this failed comedy that I'm laughing at, or is it maybe kind of successful and I'm laughing with? I don't know.
All right, well, let's keep going and find out. Dingle, has a nice little... Betty Bye routine that involves him destroying things, and it's just kind of a filler scene. And then next up we get Dingle at the bar, back at the Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill.
Right. And
he's entertaining offers from carnival people who want to hire him to be a strongman, and TV producers who want to hire him for this dubious
Everyone
show.
wants just to dabble a Dingle,
Exactly. Everyone wants a single dash of Dingle. Did you notice how the TV producer was like, okay, so it'll be you for 50 minutes just doing strong things?
That show, I don't know. I feel like it'd be The Weakest Link or something.
Yeah.
It's huge ratings for a week or two, and then just falls off the map.
It would be like that show. Remember with the show, it was Animals versus Humans or whatever? Do you remember
Yes.
that? I'll never forget that one. It was an obstacle course.
Yes, with the monkey.
Yeah.
Did we watch this together? I don't think we did,
I don't
but
know.
maybe it just left such an impression.
Do you remember the little graphic they showed beforehand?
Yes.
It
was pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses. I'll let you take it away.
Okay, well, just, it's a Navy SEAL getting through an obstacle course and an orangutan getting through an obstacle course. And on the cons for the orangutan, one of the cons was may not be aware of the competition.
It's not cognizant of what's going on.
There's something oddly deep about that. I really do think it was may, too. We don't really know. That's for God to decide, may not have soul. Anyway, welcome to the show, new listeners.
See ya.
Anyway, so at this point, not just a TV producer, but a TV or a reporter comes in, and it's Armbruster or Sloan.
I double checked. It is in fact Armbruster.
Oh, nice!
Yes,
I was
from
enjoying
the After Hours
character from that we last saw. Well, we saw him in a.
No, we saw him one other time in. I think I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah.
He was trying to purchase something, or no, he was selling.
Yeah, he's just like a character actor who always plays like a snooty guy. So he's graduated from playing a snooty department store clerk to playing a snooty TV reporter. And
he didn't have a lapel pin this time, did he? Or lapel flower.
I know. I think
WT flower.
WTF.
Where's the flower?
Oh, that's good. Nice.
Jason Abernathy here with your show, TV Probes the Unusual. And our unusual subject today is Mr. Luther Dingle, who, if what actual onlookers say is true, is the world's strongest man.
What was the acting choice there? I don't exactly understand what's going on there.
He's shifting gears, you know.
Yeah.
He's like the guy who races between the red lights, you know. He's just kind of doing a lot there.
Dingle proceeds to demonstrate his strength. I really like how all of his, the ensuing demonstration of his strength is just like a drunk Steelers fan at Buffalo Wild Wings. He just starts punching holes in walls and, smashing up tables.
And I did appreciate he has kind of like a little mincing between them.
Yes,
like he kind of, tiptoes up to each thing and kind of wiggles his fingers. And Burgess is clearly having fun in this bizarre little role.
Yeah, he draws like an X on the wall where he's going to punch it and stuff. And then this culminates with him grabbing the bully, the guy who earlier pushed him around. And we get some kind of Matrix-style wire work here. Where he picks up the dude and the camera freezes. And
it's very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dingle.
Nice. Yeah, I actually thought it was cool. I couldn't see the wires. I didn't look too closely.
This is the one time I saw the wires.
A pedant would look for the wires.
Well, freak. Yeah, I did see him this time.
I missed him, but it's fun.
It takes a lot to get Don Rickles up there.
True.
They had to use the little thicker wires.
Yeah. Should have mentioned it's Don Rickles playing the bully. Anyway, watching all of this buffoonery is the aliens, the two-headed Martian aliens, and their quote-unquote experiment is coming to a close. I don't know, what was their hypothesis exactly?
They're frustrated that he is using the powers they bestowed upon him for cheap parlor tricks, but it is very unclear what they were hoping him to I think maybe their best case scenario was he would use his power to immediately enslave people or something, but they seem too friendly for that. I don't know.
Maybe he's supposed to lift food into the mouths of hungry children or something like that.
I don't know.
They kind of give him, super strength. It's a cool power, but it's kind of limited in terms of scope. You know what I mean?
Maybe they're just really mad that he didn't take the TV deal. Or
yeah, exactly. That fool. He could have had back-end participation. These pathetic Earth creatures know nothing of entertainment law.
Right.
Anyway, they take away his powers, which is a bummer, and he loses them
at an inopportune time after he's done 5 or 6 little tricks. His 7th doesn't work, and the crowd turns on him immediately and viciously.
Yeah.
And inexplicably calls him a fake.
Exactly. He's already done several well-documented impossible things. The fact that he failed to do...
But he tries to do the same thing again, and they're like, just a phony.
I know.
Maybe this is all about the scientific method, the fact that he couldn't replicate his results.
Yes, exactly. It's a very, very deep episode. But yeah, at this point, everybody leaves the bar, including Armbruster. Did you notice how, as he was delivering an on-air apology for the lameness of only showing 7 unbelievable stunts and not 8, his mic is very conspicuously not plugged in. I don't know if you noticed that. It's just kind of hanging there.
It's a very early 90s music video feel to it.
Kind of. Anyway, everybody leaves, and Dingle is alone in the bar with Don Rickles and the bartender, and the aliens. And here's where we get...
Still waiting to close out their tab, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. And here's where we get, the last little stinger, where some more aliens show up. Now, these are like kids playing aliens, and I thought they're kind of... Again, there's the... let's do it dumb was the direction very much.
Sure.
But I kind of like these aliens. They're like little kids, and they're bald, and they're kind of like made up, like Gomez Adams. Like they have a little, pencil mustache and like the dark makeup under their eyes, and they walk in unison. I thought it was cool. I like those aliens. They talk with the voice of adults, John. That's interesting.
I don't know.
All right.
How are you, fellas?
Nice seeing you.
Where are you from?
Venus, how about you?
Mars. Conducting experiments?
Yeah, and you?
Sudden introduction of strength to subnormal Earthman. How about you?
Sudden introduction of extreme intelligence. Find any interesting subjects?
That one over there. He's referred to as a Dingle.
Nice.
He certainly is sub-physical. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he's sub-mental, too.
Yeah. I love the, tenor of that conversation. It's kind of like they're just, busting balls in the break room.
Totally.
Like, hey, guys. Oh, cool. Nice. So what are you guys doing?
Alien, I believe on the left. The two-headed alien.
Yes. Hot or not?
Yes.
Ooh, I wonder if we had the same one. You want to say it on the count of 3 together?
Oh, this will make it very exciting.
Okay.
1,
2, 3. Phil
John
Hartman.
Krasinski.
Damn.
That's one of these days.
Wait, who are you talking about?
The Jim from The American Office.
Man, and I said Phil Hartman. Wait, you're talking about one of the Martians?
Not like one of the little kids. Yeah, one of the guys with the big head. I mean, granted, Jim doesn't have an antenna sticking out of his head, but you have to do a little work.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to have to put this one up on the Tumblr.
Okay.
Get some feedback on who's right here. Okay. So the Martians head out, the Venusians head in, and they give Dingle super intelligence, which turns into this long bit about...
Yeah, it's like a Wizard of Oz bit. I've got a clip, but we don't need to hear it. He just spouts off a bunch of science about whether or not a guy's going to hit a home run, and suddenly the guy hits a home run.
Although it does,
I guess, a joke.
It's kind of like proto-sabermetrics, almost.
Exactly.
It's like, well, if you take into account wins without runs earned.
Right.
Yeah, a young Billy Bean sort of, heard that and got excited. But anyway, that's the end of the episode, and Serling takes us out.
Exit Mr. Luther Dingle, formerly vacuum cleaner salesman, strongest man on Earth, and now mental giant. These latter powers will very likely be eliminated before too long. But Mr. Dingle has an appeal to extraterrestrial note-takers as well as to frustrated and insolvent bet losers. Offhand, I'd say that he was in for a great deal of extremely odd periods, simply because there are so many inhabited planets who send down observers, and also because, of course, Mr. Dingle lives his life with one foot in his mouth and the other in the Twilight Zone.
God, I've never felt more attacked by a music cue than that. I do like how Serling throws in offhand, I'd say. Rod Serling never says anything offhand.
Just spitballing here.
So that's the episode. I can tell we're going to have a real deep philosophical conversation about this one. What do you think? Is there even kind of a vague moral to this one? Because oftentimes when there's a weak character who suddenly becomes strong, there's an implied be true to yourself type moral. But that doesn't really seem to be at play here.
Oh boy. No.
Bios and trivia.
No, I don't think that. I don't think this one was written with any kind of moral message behind it. I think this was Serling just trying to come up with a yarn that he thought would be fun. I mean, there were a couple episodes that he's written that I think were designed just for yucks, and I think this has to fall squarely into that.
Yeah. So is this a comedy, or is it just supposed to be kind of like a goofy whimsical thing. How the Bard is
Beavis or something
yeah,
versus the Bard.
Or like
maybe?
Rance McGrew, which to me is like very clearly a comedy.
Pure comedy, yeah.
Whereas this one is maybe more like going for wacky gags than like,
I think maybe we're confused because it's got so much visual gags instead of kind of like groaners.
Yeah.
A lot of there aren't a lot of comedic episodes in the Twilight Zone, but when there are, they're usually punctuated by like pretty tough jokes that are accompanied by timpani hits or timpani. Sorry,
Potomac.
Yeah.
Nothing like
Exactly.
those Potomac timpanis.
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's like I
Yeah.
said, I've kind of wrestled with this for a while after, because I just always assumed it's a terrible episode, and then watching this was like, well, I'm laughing pretty consistently, and I think that was the intended response.
Yeah.
So what if it is kind of funny?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
it's the eternal laughing at versus laughing with debate, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I guess it's like it's kind of charming in a way, even though it's not.
Yeah.
It's not really. Maybe they didn't quite get all the way to where they were going, but they did manage to have kind of a light charm, especially because Burgess Meredith is really kind of a fun actor.
Yeah, I think he helps a lot. He's definitely going for it in this.
he's the glue that binds the Dingle.
right. Yeah, he doesn't fumble the Dingle.
What we doing next?
Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Yeah. Scott, Zachary, Martin Grams Jr., Zachary and Grams and IMDB.
So I didn't have a lot of trivia here. Mark Scott Zickery in the Twilight Zone Companion, he reports that the character name originated from a reporter mistakenly referring to Mr. Denton on Doomsday as Mr. Dingle on Doomsday, and Serling liking that. But I'm pretty sure we've heard contrary reports that Serling had, like Serling himself was going to name Mr. Denton Mr. Dingle.
Yeah.
So
According to-
hopefully Grams can sort this very important issue out before Dinglegate goes too far.
This pickle of a Dingle. Graham says that originally Serling wanted to call Mr. Denton on Doomsday Mr. Dingle on Doomsday, which is just a
Cooler heads prevail.
just a tonal misread of epic proportions. But yeah, was there anything else from Zickery or IMDb?
The only other thing that I found interesting was Zickery describing this as an effort to achieve, quote, an out-and-out boffo comedy.
They got the boffo.
It was an effort. It's hard to boffo a Dingle.
Anyway, I have a different trivia book, Martin Grams Jr.'s Unlocking the Door to a Television Classic. Check it out. It's huge and got lots of trivia. This one's kind of notable because there's just so many props that were reused in other episodes. Like, that's true of many Twilight Zone episodes, but this is like 2 pages. Most notably, the lights on the Martian's chest that gave Dingle strength are the same lights that are talking to the guy at the beginning of To Serve Man. You know how their lights are like, Mr. Chambers, Mr. Chambers.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's the same prop. That was just kind of fun. There's a quote here. Apparently, Grams was able to talk to Michael Fox, who was one of the Martian heads, and I love this quote. Let's see about Serling. I got to know Serling fairly well. He was a charming and most talented man, and one of the few writers who really understood an actor's problems. I thought. I just love that from a guy who just played one head on a 2-headed Martian. What problems were those exactly?
Really helped me find my character by making me stand in a box with another guy.
Yeah. Anyway, also, according to Grams, before Don Rickles left the set on the final day of filming, someone of the CBS publicity department asked him to come up with a few one-liners they could use for publicity. Here are the one-liners.
Oh, boy.
Buckle up, get out your timpanis and your slide whistles, and here we go. Serling must do well. I've seen him in a convertible spaceship.
What?
Because it's like he's like a guy who's controls the Twilight Zone, so he's like got a convertible spaceship.
Doesn't that it has like?
Let's move along. The producer
it has a stink of like a Polish submarine or something to it. It's just confusing. Okay,
all right, here we go.
Okay.
The producer of the Twilight Zone liked my work so well, he gave me a summer home on Venus.
Okay, I understand
Let's
how
move
that
along.
joke works.
Serling is a brilliant writer. I know this because he gave me a card that said "Brilliant Writer" in color.
Got it. Okay. Now, bear in mind, this is like probably the most famous insult comic
Yeah, I know.
in American history.
Well, to be fair to Mr. Rickles, the setup of someone from the CBS publicity department asking him to like riff off a few one-liners, maybe that.
Yeah, he maybe didn't put all of his effort into that.
Maybe the real insults were reserved for the CBS publicity department guy. I don't know. Apparently, Rickles has something to say about it. He says, "Screw the director. I don't even recall who directed that." He recalls, "The main man I remember was Burgess Meredith. He was one of the greats. I'm telling you, he played his part so well that Rod Serling is probably shaking his hand to this day." So anyway, apparently Rickles and Burgess Meredith had fun on the set together. So that's kind of fun. And then finally, to get through this mountain of trivia, Grams has a little sidebar for this. Coincidence? ? The airline flight in the previous Twilight Zone episode, that would be Odyssey of Flight 33, was Global Airlines Flight 33. And the taxi cab in this episode is from the Globe Taxi Cab Company, car number 33.
Oh, okay.
We are through the looking glass here. All right, what about bios?
Burgess Meredith played Luther Dingle. He was also in Printer's Devil, The Obsolete Man, and Time Enough at Last. And he was the narrator for the Twilight Zone movie, as I think we've mentioned before.
Twilight Zone regular.
Don Rickles was the better, known for his good-natured insult comedy. He originally aspired to be a serious actor before he kind of found his true calling. So let's see. Other than that, James Milholland played Abernathy, a.k.a. Armbruster. He was also in I Dream of Jeannie in the After Hours. Michael Fox played the Second Martian. He was also in Nightmare as a Child and Sounds and Silences. Bob Duggan played a photographer. He was also in Static. And written by Serling, directed by John Brahm. And that brings us to the...
Inevitable.
So we like to find connections between Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the Twilight Zone. We got something this week. What is it? Actually, I feel like one of the Martians was in This Island Earth. Am I wrong about that?
You are ding, 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 Fred.
Nice.
Ring a ding, ding, ding. Hang on.
Ooh, sweet. I recognized him as the alien who's like, "Are you sure we can trust these people, Exeter?"
Exactly. So that's Douglas Spencer as the first Martian. He was also in This Island Earth. And then another person, Douglas Evans, played Man.
Cool.
And he was also in the episode Beginning of the End. So IMDb gives this episode a 6.9.
Pretty low, actually. Sometimes you can never tell with these. Like, sometimes people mistakenly love the comedy episodes, but I guess not so much with this one. I feel like I was going into it thinking it was just going to be delightfully terrible, but it's relatively charming. You know, it's kind of like a nice digestif after like the Obsolete Man or something. So I don't know. It's not more than a 5. I'm just wondering how much less than a 5 it is.
So you still think it's sub 5?
I think it's in the neighborhood of 5, but let's hear your thoughts.
You know, we've had this happen before with kind of bad episodes and how to rate them and all, and this isn't. It's tough because it isn't a good episode. The story is. We haven't talked a lot about it, but the story is very, very weak.
Oh yeah,
the effects are kind of hit or miss, but some of them are entertaining. But it's right. You're right. Burgess is just kind of charming in it, and there is like something about the tone, just like makes it a little bit more forgivable.
Yeah.
It's just how exactly do you rate this? I think whatever it is has to have a plus in front of it. So,
all right.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's like a 3+ because it's like it's a bad episode. I think the aliens, I don't know. I mean, I think they're terrible, but maybe they're like successful because they make me laugh because of how goofy and awful they are.
Yeah.
So I can't tell if it's like a 3+ or a 6- or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know I enjoyed it a lot, but I don't think it's good.
Yeah.
So whatever that means, let's say 3+.
This thing is really jamming our radars here.
Exactly. Yeah, the antenna sticking out of the top of my head is just spinning uncontrollably.
All right. I'll give it a 3+2, and that's a very hearty plus. Big plus on this one.
Big pluses.
All right.
Double plus.
Well, that closes it out for Mr. Dingle the Strong. I don't know if that one was requested or we went rogue on that.
It was
one.
requested by Spencer on various forms of social media until we finally accepted it.
Spencer. We got letters in the mail, skywriting.
Yeah, there was like a cardboard cutout of Dingle on my front lawn.
Anyway, next week we're going to do another request and announce the contest winners. But you're going to have to stay tuned to our social media to find out what the next episode is going to be. And you can also get in touch with us a lot of different ways. John, what are they?
You can send us an email at twilightpwn@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at twilightpwn. It was a lot of fun chatting with a bunch of the listeners and possibly new friends during the marathon. Hopefully Sci-Fi will continue that full run tradition. It was enjoyable. Yeah. You can check out our website, twilightpwn.tumblr.com. You could listen to us on any kind of podcatcher app. You can like us on Facebook, and you could subscribe to us in iTunes if you're over there. If you'd leave us a rating or review, we really love reading those. They help to get the word out about the show. To that end, thank you to V3ND for leaving us a review recently. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks much. Not to bring it down, but we should give a little RIP for George Clayton Johnson.
Sure. Yes. Which is a little strange. The reports of this Twilight Zone writer's death came out, I guess, a little premature.
Really?
They initially reported he passed, but it turned out he was just he hadn't actually, but he did end up passing on I think Christmas Day.
Oh, yeah.
So he I think officially wrote 4 episodes, but was did the story for 3 others, maybe 4 others.
It's kind of interesting, but
some very imaginative stuff.
Yeah, he was many of his episodes, Nothing in the Dark and Kick the Can, most notably tackle the concept of death, and I feel like dying or aging gracefully is like a subject that he was quite familiar with. I mean, he also,
which is interesting to think these were episodes he wrote as a very young man.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder what he would have written. I don't know, just like, it sucks more. Anyway, a hearty R.I.P. and, good wishes to whoever George Clayton Johnson finds himself
we
now.
we probably would have done a George episode, but we've already covered them all.
We've already done them all.
Yeah.
Already did our homework. Yeah. So to bring things back to a lighter note, what would you rather be, super strong or super smart?
Well, I'm already pretty damn strong, Fred. So, I mean... I don't know. I would take the super intelligence. I feel like I'd be able to get a lot further with that, but I don't know.
Yeah, get a lot further with the podcast, you mean? Yeah. I mean, I obviously jump on super smart because it just seems so much more useful, but maybe it's kind of a curse,
Yeah, I guess, if you've ever read, Flowers for Algernon, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, there's a curse to having this bod too, Fred, though.
True. Heavy hangs the crown. The theme of this episode.
Right.
I'll talk to you next week, John.
All right. Later, Fred.
Later.